Death tech is about ending your life how you want to end and preparing for that. I know it sounds morbid.
I mean, I know how I want to end, but I won't share it on the podcast.
We're going to stop here because I know Keith really well, and his brain is going into very weird, dark places right now. On this episode of Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered, we talk about Proptech funding. We talked about artificial intelligence in the real estate space. We talked about money coming back into new tech companies and some emerging companies that you need to pay attention to. It's going to be an incredible show. Tune in. You talk about it privately. We talk about it publicly. This is the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered podcast. Welcome again to the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered podcast. I'm your host, James Dwiggins, along with my co-host, Crazy Uncle Keith.
Yes, sir.
I got to do like a whole box. I got to do like a much louder thing to introduce you.
Like some, Bruce Buffer, Michael Buffer kind of vibe.
Like that. So we had a phenomenal guest today. We do every time, but she was awesome. So Ashley Stinton, managing partner of NARs REACH program. Basically, it's kind of the program involved with their venture fund. But tell everybody about what we talked about today. It was good.
Yeah. As a managing partner, she basically looks at technology companies and makes a decision on what they are and are not going to invest in. So not a better person to talk to about tech and real estate, AI and what she sees, changes that could come to how clients are served, what real estate's going to look like in the next 36 months. She drops a couple of companies that we should be on the lookout for. Tons of great information, very thoughtful conversation. So put it in your ears, kids. You're going to dig it.
Tune in. Ashley, welcome to the podcast. We are super excited to have you here. I know Keith and I have been talking about this show coming up for a while, especially with the venture capital world and Proptech. We'll have a lot of questions about that. Certainly the industry has moved a lot over the past year and a half, to say the least. We're not going to talk about, for viewers and listeners, like this isn't going to be about lawsuits today. Like,
no, but we've got about 100. We got about 135 pods about the lawsuit. They're not hard to find. Just go look for them in the episodes. But not today. Today we're going to talk about Proptech and other things that Ashley, the genius, can share.
All my favorite things.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So let's start with that. Just so for the viewers and listeners, just a real quick background. Who you are, your position, how you got there, and then we'll dive into our rapid fire questions. We want to ask you those before we go into the meat of the conversation. But let's just start with your background so they kind of know what you've been doing and what you're up to. So
yeah, sounds good. And thanks, honestly, for the opportunity to be here.
Of course.
Talk a bit about what we do over at SCV REACH. So I am the managing partner of the NAR REACH program. So we'll get more into later, I think, the different programs that we have. But I lead our program that is the flagship program based here in the U.S., primarily focused on the residential sector. Quick backstory how I got here. I grew up in the CPG industry, consumer packaged goods, with 3M's construction home improvement markets division. Seems like a far jump to real estate, but Home Depot was my biggest client. Spent a lot of time working with their buyers and their teams over the years, and then moved back to Chicago and was kind of exploring, where am I going to go next? Do I want to stay in CPG? And that's when I made the jump to real estate, into NAR. Spent a couple of years at NAR, got to know Dave and Mark and Tyler, and served as a mentor to the REACH program. So that was really my foray into REACH. And right around the time where they were mapping expansion vertically, locally, globally, we had some conversations about the team needed to do that. And I was super excited to join the team at that time. Parlayed a little bit of when I was at 3M, I also served as a liaison to our subsidiaries in Central and South America. And so a lot of the expansion that REACH has done globally, I was able to parlay a lot of that experience. So
that's awesome.
That is awesome. Okay, I got to ask, we're already off script. We're, I don't know, however many seconds in, but I always love it when people come from outside the industry and then enter the industry. And so coming from being in product and working with Home Depot and having that experience, and then you parachute into this wild, woolly, fun land of residential real estate. What was the most surprising or interesting thing as you made that transition?
Most surprising thing was every industry sucks in its own right. What I thought was super complicated and very technical. What I thought was overly complicated and frustrating about the CPG world, or in my brief time at Coca-Cola, their bottling network was really frustrating. So I thought, hey, things might be a little bit easier in real estate. They're not. They're just frustrating. They're just as complex and confusing. So I learned that you you can't escape.
The suck. You can't escape the suck. Yeah.
But I love the challenge, right? Like I love that
t-shirt.
Challenge in CPG. I actually missed it a little bit there for a minute. And I was like, you know what? I got all enough challenges over here in what we do. So
yeah, if it wasn't challenging, you'd go break something to make it challenging, right?
Exactly.
All right.
We do have a quote now for a t-shirt, by the way. So Keith and I keep thinking about doing a whole like swag store about all the quotes people say on the podcast.
Yeah.
So
James keep thinking about this.
Okay,
hopefully
fine.
I come up with something better before the end of this.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty good.
We'll do there could be many. Well, we'll come back to that. So, all right, let's do a few rapid fire questions. And then we'll dive into the meat of the whole thing. Keith, why don't you start us out? So
sure, since I'm our comic book nerd. If you were a superhero, who would you be and why?
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, my brothers were really into X-Men. I have 2 brothers. Yes. So I always thought Storm was really cool. I don't really know the reason behind it, but I just loved how she could, conjure the elements. Like that just seemed like just very different than some of the other talents out there. So yeah.
Weather powers.
No one has actually. Oh, Keith, just stop. Here we go.
I'm just saying, she had weather powers. You're super into the weather. I don't know. Like, that's interesting.
Keith finds every opportunity possible to make fun of the fact that since I was a kid, I've studied the weather. I'm a total nerd when it comes to that. So that's why I was like, see, somebody else likes the weather. See? Also, no one's actually picked that character yet.
That's true.
Anybody pick Captain Planet? I mean, there's another kind of weather.
Nope. No one's picked Captain Planet yet either.
I'm not surprised on that one.
Yeah.
I didn't even know Captain Planet existed until you just said that. So
nobody else did either.
There's that.
No.
All right. Favorite book or podcast this year? Well, or even last year, since it's still early, and why?
Yeah, I wish I was loyal to a single podcast. I love recommendations, so I'll, take all the above. I was on a flight and kind of bored, and I found an Adam Grant podcast. I mean, he can kind of do no wrong in my books. Everything he does is great listening. It was the Rethinking podcast, but it was a specific episode. It was Ginny Rometty, who is a first female CEO of IBM. Obviously, as a female tech executive, obviously a lot to look up to. But she recently wrote a book called Good Power, and so the episode that Adam interviewed here was all about this book, Good Power.
Nice.
And so there were a lot of good nuggets in there that resonated. She had, I think, something like 5 core beliefs in it. But really, kind of where she started from in the podcast was when people ask you, "Do you want power?" She would say, "No, but I want to do powerful things, or I want to do important things." And then she kind of talked about the juxtaposition of, but you often need power to do important things.
Right.
And so when I think back about kind of growing up in my 20s and in the CPG industry, I was just obsessed with getting to the next promotion, the next level. And I was like, why is this? Is it because I want the power? And it wasn't. I want to do powerful things, but it's the needing to feel like you have a seat at the table to make those impactful decisions, to do those powerful things. So I really like that episode of it. He also has really cool interviewees like Allison Felix. I'm a former track and field athlete. So that whole podcast, he can do no wrong. All of his
nice.
He's great.
We got a book and a podcast out of that response.
Exactly. There you go.
So.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and Adam Grant's new book is great too. I finished it late last year. It's a great book. Yeah. Awesome.
All right, Keith. Last question and we'll get in.
All right. If you could have lunch with one person, current or historical, who would it be and why?
I'll go sappy on this one. I'll say my mom's parents. They passed when I was really, really young, and I would just love to have gotten a chance to know them because I think I'm a pretty 50-50 mix of both of my parents. I got, my mom is pretty feisty, pretty fierce in all of the right ways. So I would have loved to have met her parents to just, know a little bit about more, her growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
That's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one. All right. So let's start with this because I don't think people understand. Well, I mean, let's just start with the relationship between the National Association of Realtors and Second Century Ventures. So can you give a little historical? How is it brought about? What does it do? Just start there. So SCV is a wholly owned subsidiary of NAR, created by NAR. So SCV was originally incepted back in 2008. The idea being rather than try to build new technology in-house, which would be, really expensive, really time consuming. It was a vehicle to invest in some of the best tech solutions out there on behalf of the realtor community. A few years later, REACH was created, and that was really born out of the idea that there were a lot of early stage founders, even later stage founders,
maybe not from real estate, that wanted a deeper connection to real estate, that wanted help navigating real estate. It was also a path to de-risk a lot of our investments. So by spending, more time with founders, coaching founders, providing them with mentorship and better access to the industry, we weren't just the capital behind it. We were,
interesting,
much stronger form of support. So NAR is still our parent organization, and then SCV and REACH are more or less one and the same.
So is REACH a consultancy that sometimes will invest through Second Century Ventures, or?
So it's a scale-up program. So REACH is a scale-up program.
Like an incubator, basically?
Exactly. I would say we used to be kind of considered more of an incubator accelerator, and we say we're more of a scale-up now. And that's just probably because over the years, our investments have changed a little bit to finding that later stage or growth stage companies also want the same access that these early stage founders are getting. Often that's other verticals, right? A company might be dominating insurance, but they lack the connections in the network in real estate. So incubators tend to be more early stage, a little bit more plug and play type of curriculum. We're a bit more bespoke, so scale up.
Gotcha.
Do you invest in all of the companies that are part of the REACH program? Is that
we do? Yep.
You do. Yeah.
Yeah. And our preferred path really is through REACH, because again, that's how we create that deep connection with the founder and the team there. And then obviously SCV is how we can continue to support our companies with follow-on financing.
And what's the amount of companies you guys have invested in? And when was the REACH program started, roughly?
2013.
2013. So what is the total number of companies that you guys have been involved with now?
Little over 250, and we'll hit 300 by the end of the year.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, we typically take about 8 companies per cohort, and we now have 7 different programs. So the number is just flying.
Yeah. And I think I was reading you guys have gone global with that now too, or you're looking at.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other countries?
The first thing we actually did was expand vertically. So we opened up a commercial program in the US. We were getting a lot of applications for when we only had one program that skewed more commercial. So with the demand, we opened up. So that's why I lead the one that's more residential focused. My colleague, Bob Gillespie, focuses on the commercial sector. Right. Then the first international program we opened up was Australia, and then the UK and Canada shortly behind that. And then LATAM, and we'll be opening up our next region in the next couple months here. Hopefully another region by the end of 24, 25.
Exciting.
How does that work when you open up a new country? Do you hire somebody that's a managing, I don't know what the terminology is actually, I apologize, a managing partner in that country to manage those? Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Some of those connections come to us, at US conferences. We've already gotten to know some of the team members. Sometimes we're out there scouting in each of those regions for the best team to, help us do what we do. And it's really about taking all the good stuff that works for REACH, trying to replicate it as much as possible in those other regions, but also, weaving in and finessing what makes the most sense for those regions where NAR or REACH may not have the brand presence that they have in the US. But yeah, there's a version of me for all of the programs.
Got it.
So when you're evaluating companies to potentially invest in, without giving away your secret sauce, but like if someone's listening to this and they're either just launching a tech startup or maybe have a more mature one but interested, like how do you evaluate who is it? Are you looking for a certain amount of revenue threshold? Is it you need a leadership profile? Like unpack a little bit for us. Like what's the perfect archetype of a company for you? Just in case anyone's listening, they might blow up your inbox.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit of a range, again, because we've progressed from more of an incubator to a scale up. What I would say is what we find the sweet spot to be about a Series A company, about $1 million ARR, but we like to look north and south of there, right? Like if that's the kind of middle of a cohort of 8 companies, that affords us the opportunity to look at some earlier stage companies, maybe take a growth stage company and be able to deliver what they all need, to 8 companies, throughout that year-long program. Team is also really important to us. We want to work with founders that are really receptive to feedback, that are malleable in the right ways, right? They want to experience the REACH program. They want to be a sponge for all this new information. They want to apply it to their business. And they want to give back as well. Community is really important to us. With 250 companies, we want to see a lot of peer-to-peer interaction. I don't know everything there is. All of our founders don't know everything there is. we need to share with each other. And so the peer-to-peer learnings that these founders can share is equally as important to us. And then the other thing we look for is, can we actually help these solutions? There's a lot of really good solutions out there. We may not be the best fit for them. There's a lot of great consultancies out there. There's a lot of other accelerators and incubators out there. So we just want to find the right fit.
How does maybe you can answer this, maybe you can't. I'm just thinking, it says obviously there's a lot of people who are hearing NAR. It's NAR, that started it up. So does NAR put money into this on a regular basis, or is SCV on its own now? Like, how does that work from a monetary perspective?
We are on our own. So we're, I guess you can call it an evergreen or open-ended fund. So our intention is to reinvest. So when we have healthy exits, our intention is that allows us to reinvest and continue investing through Reach and through SCV. Yeah.
Do you take outside investment in the fund? Like if James wanted to throw in a couple $1 million or whatever?
We don't, but I'll take your money. Yeah. I'll take it. Just me.
I don't have a couple $1 million to throw in. So
me neither.
In case somebody didn't realize, the real estate market's been a little crappy recently.
A little rough the last couple of years.
On that subject? So I'm assuming it originally started with some NAR money. Then
there was a loan. Yep. To set the fund up, but it's been since repaid. So now we are self-sufficient, I guess, is a way to say it.
So you are basically your own venture fund that does its own thing. Okay. What are some of the exits that, and I know you can't really talk about amounts, but like tell us
about the home runs. Tell us.
What are the home runs?
You're like, dang, that was a good one.
For sure. The most notable one that everybody probably knows us for is DocuSign, which, from a financial return, great win. But I think some of the other wins there were really legitimizing that this additional level of support we offer and guidance and expertise through the industry really matters. Being a strategic partner, not just being purely capital, it really validated that. And it really validated also solutions that apply to different verticals, but they choose to grow in real estate first and cut their teeth in real estate. Can we be the best partner for solutions like that? And so it really validated a lot of things very early on, I think, for SCV and Reach. Some other recent wins we've had: Modus, Glide, Active Pipe, and then most recently Areo's acquisition by Zillow was a good win for us.
Interesting.
I have a slight derail question, but no, this is my opinion. You have not said this, but I find the industry in general to be brilliant humanists and at best average technologists. So they're really good at shepherding a human being through a stressful transaction. They're not as good at remembering their login and password and other things that it takes to use technology to the fullest. When you're evaluating a tool, is that part of the calculus for you? Like,
absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of it too is some really brilliant founders and some really brilliant technologists. And it can be really frustrating for them to not see the adoption, to not see the pace of adoption. So I think one of the most important things we do is put them through experiences where they're experiencing the feet on the street, type of realtor. It's not just these strategic introductions with a top-down approach and they can sell it into one major brokerage and they're set for life, but it is in a way humbling them, if you will, to what a day in the life looks like.
Keith is actually trying to vent his own frustrations right now. He's like, how do you get around? Like,
what? No, there's no getting around it, right? Like that's the hardest thing, but like we have to really impart that on our founders too, is like, be patient. That's why you came to us. Like, let us help you understand why there's no easy road.
What I've tried to express to people is the fractional nature of this industry is what makes it hard, and it's what makes it great, right? Because it's so hard to get adoption. Once you get it, you win, because your competitor, you sort of pulled the ladder up when you got to the top, and when your competitors try to come into the space, they're going to have to go through that same fractured experience of trying to do this sort of one agent at a time, which is a slog. But once you get through it, there's massive value on the other side of it. It makes it a more defensible position.
Absolutely.
Well, it's funny to me whenever and obviously we talk to every tech company possible that wants to, sell inside of our own organization. Whenever there's a number above 20% capture rate, we're just like, and that's not going to work.
Right. In order for this to pencil, we'll just get to 20%.
Right.
Yeah. one quick question. If you could distill it down, let's pretend there's a broker owner listening, because there's probably a couple, someone who owns and is struggling with getting adoption in their own branch or in their own company. Do you have 1 or 2 words of advice for them on as someone who teaches, companies how to do this and
red wine?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, look, food and alcohol have worked with real estate professionals.
Yeah, food and alcohol definitely work.
Yeah.
I would say, I always have a hard time, speaking on our members' behalf. I want to assume, I feel like I have the easy job and they do the hard work in the industry.
But certainly that's a question you get asked, right? Like, what are some best practices?
Yeah. What is their feedback loop with their agents? What is their communication strategy to actually listen? Did they invest in a tech and then they're just shoving it down the agent's throat? And if so, and it's not resonating, how open to the feedback from the agents are they? And are they allowing the agents to say, that doesn't work for me and here's why? And then the willingness to scrap it. Technology is expensive and training is expensive, but I think being able to listen to what's not working is really, really important. Just the same way we tell our founders, they have to be open. You have to be willing to hear why somebody doesn't like your product, won't pay what you think they'll pay for it. You just have to be open to that raw feedback.
Yeah. And the only other piece I'd add to what you said is, just because you rolled it out a year ago, they might not have been ready to listen then, right? Like you have to constantly re-roll out into your organization. And it's sort of like when the pupil is ready, the teacher will appear, right? When they need it for their business, that's when they really want to learn whatever this tool is. And so you have to sort of be continuously present at the forefront with the tool. Yeah. Good feedback. Thank you.
Speaking of that, what are some exciting companies that you've seen come into the space? And by the way, we don't want to play AI bingo, where we all take a shot every time we say the word AI.
Who's we?
Somebody said that on stage, by the way, at Inman the other day. It was really funny.
I won't play AI bingo. I feel like my eyes are burning from all the articles in 2023 that were AI just for the sake of being AI. I feel like it's been sensationalized a lot.
Can I tell you my favorite question when I'm on a demo and someone says that they're AI, quote unquote? I ask them 2 things. One, I ask them, how many PhDs in mathematics do you have? Because the answer is almost always 0, right? It's pretty tough to have AI without a couple of PhDs in mathematics. And then the second question I ask is, how long ago did you add this slide to your deck?
Right. Yeah. We're taglines that are AI powered, right? Like companies added AI powered in 22 and 23. Yeah. Okay. So we're not playing AI bingo. I'll talk.
Yeah, like what's interesting? Tell us some really cool things that you see coming out on the horizon. So
I would say it is interesting, but I would say just from a bulk of what we're seeing, there's a lot in the mortgage finance lending space, and that makes a lot of sense with everything that's going on. But we're seeing a lot of solutions in down payment assistance, focusing on first-time home buyers, home equity plays. Really a lot in that space. So much so it's hard to cut through and
we looked at a company a while ago. Like an example of that, we looked at a company a while ago that would basically give you some down payment, but take an equity stake in the home and then get repaid on the exit. Is that the kind of things you're talking about where venture capital or business formation is trying to solve some of the affordability issues that are present in our industry? Yeah,
I've seen quite a few solutions in that category. Communication, transparency, obviously a big fan of that category with everything that's going on. So, not to name drop, but final offer, raise, I think these are some really important tools, and they certainly beg bigger conversations, but I think they're really cool tools. I think they're really important. A category I really like is, but I have a hard time finding really great solutions that have a substantive output for realtor and consumer is climate. That skews a little bit more, I would say, commercial in terms of the solutions that we see that are coming to Reach. But some
when you say climate, you mean like the whole world, like the
climate change, resiliency.
There we go. Yeah, go on mute. Go ahead, James. Go ahead.
No, I'm listening to her. I just enjoying the fact she's bringing it up and you're getting irritated. This actually makes me happy. So
I'm simply asking qualifying questions.
I know.
There's zero irritation. This is your sweet spot. Run with it.
No,
so you're probably familiar with Frontline Wildfire.
I'm not.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. It's really about not fire prevention, but making your home resilient from the risk of fire with a really savvy sprinkler system, but also alerts to make sure that you're getting out of the house in time. So just some interesting early applications, I would say. So that's an interesting one. Kind of crossing over into permitting and that kind of category, maybe ADU adjacent. We see a lot of ADU solutions. Shovels is one that I saw recently, met them at the Blueprint conference. Are really expediting and delivering some automation to that permitting process on behalf of the construction industry.
It's a real problem too.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that.
I don't know if you saw the Bloomberg article yesterday about zoning. They're basically companies that are out there right now trying to create a zoning database of every municipality across the country. That stuff's super interesting to me, to make it more efficient and easier for builders to come in and know where to build and how to build and sort of lower some of the costs around building in an effort to help with affordability. It's really interesting tech out there around that.
It's actually kind of a great leading question that I have. So obviously when there was a ton of money in Proptech and fintech and so obviously it went to a big screeching halt for the most part when Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. At least it felt like it did. Is it starting to is it starting to come back? Like is there more money coming back into the space now?
Yes,
like, what's your read on all
gradually? Like that was a pretty impactful moment. But gradually, yes, I would say what we're seeing is, first I'll say we never slowed down. But I think that's because of the uniqueness of how we've, really built ourselves between, the REACH and the SCV kind of vehicles that we have. But the funding has returned, but there's a larger focus on portfolio. So there's a lot more VCs going back to their portfolio before they're looking outside. Yeah, exactly. And then I would say that most VCs have just become a more difficult screen, which, maybe they should have already
been all along. Yeah. It's hard to screen hard when money's free and liquor's flowing.
So the check sizes have gotten smaller, larger emphasis on runway and, path to profitability. But it's slowly coming back.
I know
there's still a lot of interest in Proptech.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
Any feedback on the lawsuits with that? Like, is that something being discussed in the space? Like, meaning I'm not talking, I want to get a lawsuit, just the concept of it, of like that stay away from things that are realtor based, but focus on finding tools to remove that. I'm asking these questions in general statement.
Yeah, no, I think because real estate's under a microscope, it's more curiosity, but we're not seeing necessarily that that's impacting investment. It's inventory and interest rates that's impacting, it's deterring most investors from wanting to get into the Proptech space. So certainly see that picking back up this year.
Most Proptech is unit based, not agent commission based, right? So less concern, more like, I heard the screeching tires and tell me about the car crash, but it may or may not change my investment thesis that much.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. We've danced a little bit around AI, but we can't have a brilliant technologist on it, not like at least dip our toe in the AI water. So we've heard from other folks that they think AI could fully replace the real estate agent in as little as 10 years.
We had actually a guest on our show who said that.
Yep.
To be clear, he was
didn't
very
see that episode, but I'll have to go back and watch it.
Very yes.
How do you see AI fitting into residential real estate and the agent and the client relationship and all of those pieces?
Yeah, I think it's just a really powerful tool for efficiency. Again, I think I am a little desensitized just because of all the headlines in 2023. So cutting through, what's actually going to deliver some meaningful output. I just think it's a really great opportunity for efficiency in all of our lives. I try to often think about my consumer experience and how is my consumer experience changing? And then, how does that impact my relationship with my realtor, and the efficiency that I'm expecting as a consumer, are realtors responding to that kind of demand for a simpler, more efficient transaction or experience? But honestly, that demand by consumers, to me, that's not a new thing, that they just want a simpler, transaction. So I think AI is a really powerful tool. I don't think it's going to replace realtors. I don't think it's going to displace realtors. I think it's going to displace workload. I think it's going to displace functions and tasks that honestly we're all doing in our businesses that we can do more efficiently. But big tech, I think, has everybody kind of freaked out. And I have to remind myself, like, not to follow so many of these
blogs and whatnot. I mean, look, if you use Gmail, when you go to type an email, it'll auto populate with like, Dear James, right? If I'm saying it, because it knows I put like,
it's about to get a big upgrade too.
Yeah, but technically that is a version of AI, right? It's trying to predict what I would want. So when you're typing a sentence and it tries to autofill the rest of this, that's AI.
Right.
Like, it's just going to be more, right? It's going to be more and more pervasive. I think it'll end up showing up inside of things that we already use and making that more efficient versus a wholesale replacement.
What do you think that I always want to get like deeper on this conversation, because what do you think? Like I go down this road of I find a house, I want to write an offer. I'm going to have artificial intelligence look at data. I'm just trying to like go down this road for a second. It's going to look at the data of the house that's being sold. It has no idea what the seller is thinking or what's important to them. Like how to write an offer that might be more of interest to them based upon their own life circumstances. You'd have to talk to a human being to figure that out, unless they wrote all that down.
Right.
You're still going to write an offer, but you're still going to want to have somebody look at it and be like, do you have any thoughts on this? Like, I mean, whenever I hear people talk about this, I think there are things that we could automate more. I maybe I'm off, but I feel like the mortgage experience could go further into automation over time. Maybe I'm off there.
I don't disagree. I mean, the tangibility of real estate, right, versus like how you're paying for real estate. Like, real estate is a tangible thing you touch and you live in, and the human element of, being part of that transaction. I think that's the piece there that, no consumer necessarily wants to do it in such a kind of, robotic, fashion.
But just to take the other side of that for just a sec, since, we're on a podcast, and if we all agree, it's way less fun. Totally. Couldn't AI, for example, if I were a seller of someone selling their first home to trade up, might have different needs than someone trading down. But there are certain things that you could know, right? If you're an empty nester, like the data is out there, and the AI could process that data and then feed. I still think the agent's in the transaction, but to show the power that it could have, oh, well, you're most likely a trade up buyer doing your first trade up property because I know your age. I know the current property that you're in. I have access to a tremendous amount of data around you. You might want to consider this loan program, or you might want to consider a 1-year rate buy down, because that's going to ease the transition for you as you move into this higher payment. Whereas for an empty nester, I would have a whole different set of parameters that would be important to me. And I think AI can elucidate those things and then nudge the agent or the client into that conversation, right? And so I see that actually as this opportunity for the entire industry to level up. I think we can now more boldly help and provide value in ways that we couldn't before. And it'll be, I can't believe I'm going to say it because I hear it all day, every day, but it'll be AI empowered. Sorry, but really
going on the t-shirt.
Yeah, it's going on. Exactly. But is that, I don't see that as replacing, but I do think it becomes highly involved in the process.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I think everything is an evolution. The consumer experience, the realtor experience, and it's like, this is a really pivotal time to we got to get on board with something, because if we don't get on board with something, it's going to pass us up. And that's where you tease the idea of disintermediation and displacement, is if you're not willing to, I'd like to think that's kind of where we sit, is like, let us, test it a little bit. Let us find the best founders who are taking it and doing something with it. But we need that realtor feedback in order to validate that the founders we've chosen and the solutions we're choosing are doing it in a way that realtors actually would use it with their clients, and the ways that consumers would actually want it too, because some of our solutions are consumer facing as well.
Well, 2 questions, then Keith will wrap us up with the final question.
Are we moving away from AI? Because I have one more AI question.
Yeah, go.
Okay. This is a yes or no. That's all you can give us, yes or no. So these things tend to come in hype cycles, right? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Too much coffee today. But these things tend to come in hype cycles, right? So it was Bitcoin or crypto that was going to change the world. Sort of did for a few folks, maybe not. Coming back, we'll see. Then it was
Sam did well.
The multiverse. Yeah, from jail.
Sorry.
Yeah, there was the not multiverse. That's Marvel. I'm thinking comic books, but there was the metaverse. Thanks. We were all going to go hang out.
I was like, really? We're already going to the Avengers?
Yeah. We were all going to go hang out in a fake world together, right? And that one seems to have not really come to fruition. AI has been the most recent hype cycle. Is yes or no? Is this a real hype cycle, or is it like the last 2?
That's not a yes or no question.
Yeah, that's hard. No, I don't think it's a hype cycle, but I would argue that, well, not argue, but I would say that
argue.
AI has been around for a while. It's just getting the attention now. So maybe the hype, the attention part, it may go away. But it wasn't invented in 2023. It's just 2023 decided that like celery had a year, like AI had a year. So, maybe the attention is going away and not everybody has to be obsessed with being AI powered.
What's the next big hype cycle?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if I know what the next big hype cycle is, but the next big category to me is age tech. That's one that I feel a little behind on, and I want to get our portfolio ahead on.
What is age tech? Like,
so age tech,
showing my age, I don't know.
Yeah,
something for old people like me.
Silver tech. It even parlays into there's a category called death tech.
Whoa, I don't want that one.
This is the whole concept of how we want to age, and for us in real estate, how our consumers want to age, aging in place, home care, communities, 55 plus communities, senior living communities. So age tech. But it also is solutions like Presidio, how we store all of our information and have to share it at different stages of our life when somebody is unavailable, sick, and unable to share that information. But then it goes into, other categories like financial planning. There's an overlap with age tech and financial planning. Death tech is about ending your life how you want to end and preparing for that. I know it sounds morbid.
I mean, I know how I want to end, but I won't share it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
there's some
funny.
really interesting. There's a group called, I think, a conference called End Well, and the whole concept is technology can help us end well, end the way we want to end, and it doesn't have to be this like unsavory thing to talk about. But yes, it's a little squeamish.
We're going to stop here because I know Keith really well, and his brain is going into very weird, dark places right now.
Good luck with age tech, because I've seen my dad try to send a text, and that shit is comical. I mean, it takes him like 45 minutes to send a sentence.
All right. So I have one last question, and Keith will finish us out on this. Where do you think the real estate industry looks like in 36 months? And I'm not necessarily specifying tech, just where do you think we will be in 36 months with everything you see and everything that's going on?
Yeah, I think with all the challenges that we're facing right now, I see the bar on productivity and professionalism both going up. And so whether I think that's a combination of, technology and then other challenges that are happening, I think both can help level each other up. I think as agents and brokers and teams get more powerful and more efficient with the use of technology, then it does up the bar. And I think that's actually always been a healthy thing about real estate is, healthy competition. And so I see that continuing to blossom in 36 months. And I hope that's not, doe-eyed optimism or something. And
no, because I've been thinking about this a bit. I agree with you. And I think usually the industry responds to external forces, right? So like 2008, 2009, those were, you take 2008 to 2011, those were a crazy 3-4 years, right? COVID was a crazy couple of years, right? but it's been external forces. I think that this will be the biggest change that's coming from inside the industry in my 25 years. Like this next 36 months, there will be more evolution in the industry than we've had ever from an internal standpoint. So to your whole, like, I agree. The agents and the companies that can really level up are going to capture market share over the next 36 months.
For sure. Demand from the inside, pressure from the outside. Like, let's make use of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We always end on this. If you were an agent or a broker, what would you add, change, plug into your business for 2024 so you could succeed?
Any Reach company product. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, we'll provide a list. We'll provide a list of Reach companies in the show notes.
Right.
Please start at the top and work your way to the left.
No, I'm only kidding. I would say find the biggest time suck. Find the thing that you are least efficient at, and attack that, because this is a time-intensive business. So time that you can give back to reinvest in your business, time you can give back to spending with your agents, training your agents, recruiting new agents. I mean, just time is so very precious. So anything, I think everybody has to find that weak spot. There's something we're all doing that's inefficient, and start there.
That's good advice, because everybody wastes a hell of a lot of time on stuff. So,
facts.
Ashley, thank you for being here. That was awesome.
Thanks
really great to hear about what you do and just the success of the Reach program. I don't know how you do, looking at all the companies you do and not like lose your mind. I know Keith looks at a quarter of probably what you look at.
It's why we have the best jobs in this space. I absolutely love it.
Well, keep doing that. It's helpful to all of us, because for, companies in the space, we look at the stuff you guys are looking at as the sort of gold standard. So we appreciate it. So thanks for being here. We'll look forward to having you back on the show at some point later. So
thanks so much.
Thanks again. It's our job to say out loud what everybody's only thinking to themselves. It's your job to subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode.